Alzheimer's disease is often called one of the most devastating illnesses of our time, a cruel thief that slowly steals away memories, independence, and the very essence of a person's identity. For many Americans over the age of 65, Alzheimer's is no longer a distant fear, it is a reality affecting millions. Studies show that by the time someone reaches 85 or older, there is a 1 in 3 chance they will develop this disease. The numbers are staggering and growing. Right now, more than 6 million people in the United States live with Alzheimer's, and experts warn this could more than double in the next few decades. This isn't just a medical issue. It's a public health crisis touching families, caregivers, and communities nationwide. But what exactly causes Alzheimer's? And more importantly, is there anything we can do to prevent or slow it down? Today, we'll explore the latest research and surprising discoveries about this disease, some of which challenge what we've always believed about healthy habits. Understanding Alzheimer's is the first step toward protecting ourselves and those we love. So let's take a closer look at how memory fades, why it happens, and what we can do to fight back. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. It's hard to put into words what it feels like when someone you love begins to slip away. Not in body, but in mind. For many families across America, this experience is all too familiar. The story of Grandpa Lou is a story shared by countless households, each with their version of heartache and resilience. Grandpa Lou was the anchor of his family for nearly all his 85 years. He built his life in a quiet suburb, just outside of Cleveland. Neighbors knew him for his hearty laugh, his habit of feeding stray cats, and his tendency to offer unsolicited advice about everything from fishing to the Cleveland Browns. He was the type of grandfather who'd remember every birthday, every favorite ice cream flavor, and every detail from the family's summer camping trips. But around his 65th birthday, Lou's family began to notice little changes. At first, they chalked it up to senior moments, the kind of harmless forgetfulness that comes with age. He'd misplace his car keys, call his grandson by his son's name, or ask the same question twice in one afternoon. The family teased him gently, and even Lou himself laughed it off. "I guess the old brain's getting a little rusty," he'd say with a wink. Over the next few years, however, those memory lapses became harder to ignore. The day Grandpa Lou forgot his way home from the grocery store was the first real scare. It was a place he'd visited hundreds of times, a route he could have driven blindfolded. Yet that afternoon, he sat parked at a stop sign for nearly half an hour, trying to remember which direction to turn. The worry settled in, a quiet anxiety that grew with each passing month. Lou's wife, Mary, began to shoulder more of the daily responsibilities. She started making lists for him, what to pick up at the store, which grandkids were visiting, and when to take his medication. Still, some moments caught her completely off guard, like the evening Lou poured orange juice over his cereal, or the time he introduced Mary as his sister at church. Their world, once stable and familiar, began to shift in small, unsettling ways. Then came the day Lou wandered off while sitting in their backyard. It was a sunny afternoon, and Mary left him for just a moment to answer a phone call. When she returned, the chair was empty. Panic set in. She searched the yard, the neighbors' houses, the park down the street, calling out his name with rising fear. Hours passed, and still no sign of him. The family called the police, who joined the search with flashlights and urgent voices. It was nearly 2 days before Lou returned, disoriented, dirty, hungry, and unable to explain where he had been or how he'd found his way home. Mary's relief was overwhelming, but so was the sorrow. She realized that the man she had shared a life with for over 60 years was slipping away, bit by bit, memory by memory. It wasn't just about forgotten birthdays or lost keys anymore. It was about the slow erosion of self, of identity, of connection. Grandpa Lou's story, as heartbreaking as it is, reflects a reality for millions of Americans. Alzheimer's disease doesn't just affect those diagnosed. It impacts entire families, rippling outwards with every forgotten face and lost memory. But what exactly is happening inside the brain to cause such profound changes? And is there anything at all, that can be done to slow or stop this process? To understand Alzheimer's, we first have to look at the brain itself. A vast, complex network of cells and connections, firing off billions of signals every day. In a healthy brain, neurons, nerve cells, communicate with each other through chemical and electrical signals, storing memories, controlling movement, and shaping personality. But in the brains of people like Grandpa Lou, something goes wrong. Scientists have spent decades unraveling the mysteries behind Alzheimer's, and what they've discovered is both fascinating and deeply troubling. One of the primary culprits is a protein called amyloid beta. In small amounts, amyloid beta isn't necessarily harmful. But as we age, some people's brains start to accumulate too much of it. These excess proteins begin to clump together, forming sticky plaques that settle between the neurons. Over time, these amyloid plaques disrupt the normal flow of signals in the brain, acting like roadblocks that prevent nerve cells from communicating effectively. But that's not the only villain at play. Another key player is a protein called tau. Inside healthy neurons, tau helps stabilize the internal skeleton of the cell, allowing it to function and transport nutrients. But in Alzheimer's, tau proteins become abnormal. They start to tangle up into twisted fibers, known as neurofibrillary tangles, choking the cell from within and eventually causing it to die. As these amyloid plaques and tau tangles build up, the brain's communication network begins to crumble. The hippocampus, a region crucial for memory and learning, is often one of the first areas to suffer damage. This is why short-term memory loss is one of the earliest signs of Alzheimer's. As the disease progresses, more and more regions of the brain are affected, leading to confusion, personality changes, and eventually a complete loss of independence. No one wakes up one day with a full-blown case of Alzheimer's. It's a slow, insidious process, often taking years, even decades, to fully reveal itself. For many, the disease begins in the shadows, with tiny changes that go unnoticed until, one day, the cumulative loss becomes impossible to ignore. While the biology of Alzheimer's is complex, researchers have identified several risk factors that can increase a person's chances of developing the disease. Genetics certainly plays a role. If you have a parent or sibling with Alzheimer's, your own risk is higher. But genes aren't the whole story. Recent studies have uncovered some surprising lifestyle factors that may be just as important, if not more so. For years, we've been told that certain habits are good for us: eating a light diet, getting plenty of sleep, and keeping a tidy home. But new research suggests that, when taken to extremes or misunderstood, some of these habits could do more harm than good, especially for our brains. Let's take a closer look at 6 major causes of Alzheimer's disease, including a few you might not expect. First, consider the seemingly harmless act of skipping breakfast. In today's fast-paced world, many older adults find themselves eating less in the morning, either out of habit or a desire to cut calories. But a landmark study from Japan followed over 500 seniors for 6 years and found a startling link. Those who routinely skipped breakfast had a 4 times greater risk of developing Alzheimer's compared to those who ate breakfast daily. The reason, researchers believe, is that breakfast provides essential nutrients that help maintain healthy brain function. Without it, the brain may age more rapidly, setting the stage for cognitive decline. Next comes the issue of frequent snacking. With so many processed, high-fat snacks available, it's easy to graze throughout the day, especially when living alone or spending more time at home. But frequent snacking, especially on foods loaded with unhealthy fats, can raise cholesterol levels in the blood. This, in turn, accelerates the buildup of amyloid beta plaques in the brain, raising the risk for Alzheimer's disease by more than 2.5 times. Salt is another culprit, though not for the reasons most people think. We all know that too much salt can raise blood pressure, but excessive salt intake also damages the walls of tiny blood vessels in the brain. This can lead to cortical atrophy, or the shrinking of critical brain areas, and double the risk of developing Alzheimer's. Moderation, as always, is key. Now, you might be surprised to hear that following an extremely light diet, one that avoids most animal products or fats, could also put your brain at risk. Take, for example, Mrs. Wu, a woman who spent her life as a cleaner at a local insurance company. For the past decade, she had followed a strict vegetarian diet, avoiding all animal products to improve her health. Yet, over just a few months, Mrs. Wu began showing alarming signs of cognitive decline, forgetting how to use her phone, losing interest in her favorite activities, and ultimately being diagnosed with early-onset dementia at just 45 years old. Doctors found her vitamin B12 levels were dangerously low, a deficiency linked directly to nerve cell damage in the brain. This case serves as a warning. While plant-based diets can be healthy, older adults must ensure they get enough essential nutrients, particularly vitamin B12, to protect their brains. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Vitamin D deficiency is another silent threat. Sunlight is the body's best source of vitamin D, but as we age, our skin becomes less efficient at producing it, and many seniors spend less time outdoors. A comprehensive study from the University of South Australia analyzed hundreds of thousands of participants and found that boosting vitamin D intake to normal levels could potentially prevent nearly 1 in 5 cases of Alzheimer's disease. Vitamin D acts like a hormone in the body, influencing everything from bone health to immune function, and most importantly, brain health. Sleep is often considered one of the pillars of good health, but here again, balance is crucial. Recent American studies have found that excessive daytime napping, especially naps longer than an hour, can increase the risk of developing Alzheimer's by 40%. Why? Researchers believe that long naps may be linked to the buildup of toxic proteins in the brain, impairing the regions responsible for wakefulness and memory. On the other hand, a short nap after lunch, around an hour, has been shown to boost cognitive performance in older adults. The key is moderation and maintaining a consistent sleep schedule. Finally, there is the issue of overcleanliness, a habit that many of us adopted with good intentions, especially in recent years. Living in an impeccably clean home might sound like a healthy choice, but some scientists believe it could weaken our immune systems over time. The immune system needs exposure to small amounts of bacteria and environmental stimuli to function properly. When our environments are too sterile, our bodies may become less capable of fighting off threats, including those that impact brain health. Overuse of disinfectants and antibiotics can kill off beneficial bacteria, disrupt the body's natural defenses, and potentially accelerate the degeneration of brain cells. When we look at all these causes together, skipping breakfast, unhealthy snacking, too much salt, extreme diets, vitamin deficiencies, excessive sleep, and even overcleanliness, it becomes clear that protecting our brains requires a careful balance. No single habit or nutrient holds all the answers. Rather, it's the sum of our choices over a lifetime that shapes our risk. In the end, Grandpa Lou's journey is a poignant reminder that Alzheimer's disease is not just a medical condition, but a deeply human one. It is woven into the fabric of daily life, affecting what we eat, how we move, how we sleep, and how we connect with others. While science is still searching for a cure, the knowledge we have now empowers us to make choices that may protect our memories and preserve our sense of self for as long as possible. For those living with Alzheimer's, and for the families who walk beside them, understanding the disease is the first step toward hope. We cannot turn back the clock or erase the past, but by learning from stories like Grandpa Lou's, and by embracing discoveries, we can face the future with greater wisdom, resilience, and compassion. There's an old saying that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and nowhere does this ring truer than with Alzheimer's disease. For many years, people believed that memory loss was simply an inevitable part of aging, a slow fading of the mind that nothing could prevent. But science is revealing a more complicated truth. Day by day, Researchers are discovering that our habits, the little things we do, the foods we eat, the routines we keep, play a much greater role in the fate of our memories than we ever imagined. This chapter takes a long, honest look at those habits. It asks us to pause and consider, what in our daily lives, from a skipped breakfast to an extra nap, might quietly be opening the door to memory loss? Let's begin with something so ordinary that it's easy to overlook: breakfast. For generations, American families have started their days with breakfast around the kitchen table. The smells of scrambled eggs, the sound of cereal poured into a bowl, or the sizzle of bacon in a pan are woven into the fabric of our lives. Yet in recent decades, breakfast has become the meal most likely to be skipped. Some people are too busy, others simply don't feel hungry, and many believe that skipping breakfast might help them shed a few pounds or keep their blood sugar low. But research tells a different story, especially for older adults concerned about brain health. Skipping breakfast and Alzheimer's risk. A study from Japan followed over 500 people aged 65 and older for 6 years, carefully noting their eating habits and tracking who developed Alzheimer's disease. What they found was eye-opening. Those who routinely skipped breakfast had a 4-fold higher risk of developing Alzheimer's than those who ate breakfast each day. 4 times higher. That's not a number you can ignore. Why would skipping one meal make such a difference? After a night's sleep, the brain wakes up hungry, in need of nutrients to jumpstart its many functions. Breakfast provides fuel for both body and mind, and a healthy morning meal can help maintain stable blood sugar, support neurotransmitter production, and keep brain cells operating smoothly. When breakfast is skipped, the brain may be forced to run on empty, triggering stress hormones and, over time, wearing down the pathways responsible for memory and learning. In practical terms, this means that simple morning rituals, whether a bowl of oatmeal, a slice of whole grain toast with peanut butter, or a plate of scrambled eggs, aren't just about physical energy. They're about protecting the precious web of neurons in our brains. For seniors, this is a gentle but urgent reminder: don't skip breakfast. It could be the easiest act of self-care you practice all day. Frequent snacking and cholesterol effects. The next habit worth a closer look is snacking. In today's America, snacks are everywhere. The pantry is full of chips, crackers, and sweets. The convenience store on the corner has shelves lined with pastries and sodas. With television, reading, or even just loneliness as a companion, it's easy to reach for just a little something to munch on. While snacking isn't inherently bad, the trouble comes from the kind of snacks most people choose: foods loaded with unhealthy fats and refined sugars. Frequent snacking, especially on high-fat processed foods, has a surprising and worrisome impact on the brain. Scientists have discovered that these kinds of snacks raise cholesterol levels, not just in the arteries leading to the heart, but also in the small vessels nourishing the brain. High cholesterol contributes to the formation of amyloid beta plaques, the very same sticky clumps that accumulate between brain cells and disrupt communication in Alzheimer's patients. One large study found that people who snacked often on these unhealthy foods had a 2.7 times greater risk of developing Alzheimer's than those who limited their snacking. It's a striking number, but one that gives us agency. By choosing snacks wisely, nuts, fresh fruit, or a handful of whole grain crackers, we can enjoy a treat without unknowingly adding to our risk. Excessive salt intake impact. Salt is a staple in the American diet. It flavors our food, preserves our pantry staples, and for many, brings comfort in familiar recipes. But the line between just enough and too much can be easy to cross, especially as taste buds grow less sensitive with age. The average American consumes far more salt than recommended, often without realizing it. Too much salt doesn't just raise blood pressure, it also damages the delicate walls of blood vessels in the brain. Over time, this damage can lead to small, silent strokes and a gradual atrophy of the brain's cortex, the area responsible for memory, language, and judgment. Studies have shown that a diet high in salt can increase Alzheimer's risk by 2.5 times. That's a sobering thought, especially when you consider that much of our salt intake comes not from the salt shaker, but from processed and restaurant foods. Reducing salt isn't about eating bland meals. It's about finding new ways to bring flavor to life. Herbs, spices, citrus zest, and homemade broths can all keep meals delicious and the brain healthy. Learning to read nutrition labels and being mindful of sodium content can become an act of care not only for your heart, but for your mind as well. Overdoing a light diet and vitamin B12 deficiency. The pursuit of health often leads people to seek lighter and lighter diets, especially as they get older. For some, this means cutting out red meat or animal products altogether, swapping them for salads, grains, and vegetables. While plant-based eating is associated with many health benefits, there is an important warning for seniors. Not all nutrients are created equal, and some, like vitamin B12, are found almost exclusively in animal products. Vitamin B12 is essential for the maintenance of healthy nerve cells and the production of DNA. A deficiency can cause a wide range of problems, including fatigue, numbness, and, most alarmingly, cognitive decline. Without enough B12, the protective covering around nerve fibers begins to break down, slowing communication within the brain and leading to confusion, memory loss, and symptoms that can mimic dementia. Case study: Mrs. Wu and early dementia. Few stories illustrate this danger as clearly as that of Mrs. Wu. In her mid-40s, Mrs. Wu was the picture of health: active, slim, and committed to a vegetarian lifestyle. She worked long hours as a cleaner and rarely fell ill. Her decision to cut out animal products seemed to be working, until small, strange changes began to appear. She started forgetting her grocery list, then mixed up her grandchildren's names, and eventually left the stove on and wandered away. Her family noticed, but brushed it off as normal forgetfulness. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. It wasn't until Mrs. Wu became withdrawn, struggling to hold a conversation, shying away from her beloved smartphone, and staring blankly for hours, that her family grew truly concerned. Medical tests confirmed the worst. Mrs. Wu was experiencing early-onset dementia, a rare diagnosis for someone her age. The culprit? A profound deficiency of vitamin B12, silently eroding her cognitive abilities. After months of treatment and careful reintroduction of B12-rich foods and supplements, Mrs. Wu's decline slowed, but the lesson lingered. A diet that is too restrictive, especially without medical guidance, can be as dangerous as one that is indulgent. For seniors, this means that balance is everything. Including eggs, dairy, fish, or even a supplement can make all the difference between sharpness and fog. Vitamin D deficiency and Alzheimer's. Just as important as vitamin B12 is vitamin D, the so-called sunshine vitamin. Many remember childhood spent playing outdoors, skin bronzed and laughter echoing across yards and parks. But as people age, life shifts indoors. Skin thins and loses its ability to manufacture vitamin D from sunlight. Winter months keep many inside, and sunscreen, though protective, also blocks production. Vitamin D is a hormone precursor that supports not just bones, but the immune system and the very health of brain cells themselves. In a massive Australian study, nearly 300,000 people were observed, and researchers found that those who maintained healthy vitamin D levels were far less likely to develop Alzheimer's. Indeed, the study estimated that 1 in every 5 cases could be prevented if vitamin D were kept in check. Getting enough vitamin D isn't just about taking a pill, it's about a lifestyle. A daily walk in the sunshine, an afternoon spent gardening, or a breakfast of eggs and fortified milk can help keep levels where they need to be. For those living in cloudy climates or struggling with mobility, supplements prescribed by a doctor are a safe and easy fix. Excessive daytime napping. Few pleasures rival a midday nap, especially after a morning spent working in the yard or reading a good book. But, as with many things, moderation is key. Recent studies from American researchers have shown a concerning link between excessive daytime napping, especially naps longer than an hour, and a significantly increased risk of Alzheimer's. Why would a nap be a problem? The answer lies in the brain's waste removal system. During healthy sleep, the brain flushes out toxins, including the amyloid beta proteins that build up in Alzheimer's. But excessive napping, especially during the day, can disrupt this process. Instead of a restorative cycle, the brain's rhythms become confused, leaving it more vulnerable to the very plaques and tangles that cause cognitive decline. It's important to recognize that naps are not the enemy. A short nap, about 30 to 60 minutes, after lunch has been shown to improve memory and alertness in seniors. The danger comes when naps become so long or frequent that they begin to crowd out nighttime sleep, or become a substitute for activity and engagement. Effects of overcleanliness on immunity and brain health. One of the more surprising findings in recent Alzheimer's research has to do with cleanliness, something Americans are justly proud of. We scrub our kitchens, disinfect bathrooms, and, especially in recent years, have become accustomed to wiping down groceries and spraying every surface. Cleanliness keeps disease at bay, but, as scientists are learning, there can be too much of a good thing. The immune system, like a muscle, needs to be exercised. When the environment is too sterile, with every germ scrubbed away and little exposure to the natural world, the immune system can grow lazy. This can lower the body's ability to fight inflammation and defend against the kinds of chronic, low-level threats that, over the years, wear down brain cells. Studies have found that people who live in overly clean environments, who use large amounts of disinfectants and antibiotics, may be more prone to autoimmune problems and, ultimately, to conditions like Alzheimer's. It's not a call to abandon hygiene, but a reminder that fresh air, a little garden dirt under the nails, and even a family pet can help keep the immune system robust and ready. Bringing the lessons home. When we stand back and look at these habits, skipping breakfast, snacking unwisely, consuming too much salt, choosing overly restrictive diets, neglecting vitamin D, napping too long, and keeping our homes too clean, we see a clear pattern. Alzheimer's risk is not determined by fate alone, but by the countless small choices we make each day. For American seniors, the good news is that it's never too late to change. Adding a healthy breakfast, swapping chips for fruit, being mindful with the salt shaker, enjoying a little sunlight, keeping naps short and sweet, and finding joy in the messiness of life can all make a difference. These habits are not a guarantee against Alzheimer's, but they are steps toward resilience, a way of stacking the odds in our favor. Stories like Mrs. Wu's remind us that health is a journey, one that requires both attention and compassion. The details matter, but so does the bigger picture. Living with purpose, seeking connection, and staying open to new knowledge and experiences. In the end, the true secret to brain health is the same as the secret to a good life. A little wisdom, a little flexibility, and a lot of heart. As you move through each day, remember that the choices you make matter. Not just for your body, but for your mind and your memories, and for all those who love you. Alzheimer's disease is a formidable foe, but the story is still being written, and there is so much hope to be found in the details of daily living. As we grow older, each new birthday can bring with it a mix of pride and unease. There's pride in the wisdom and experience we've gathered, memories of raising families, building careers, witnessing decades of change. But there can also be a quiet, lingering fear. The possibility that one day, those very memories might slip from our grasp. For many, Alzheimer's disease feels like a dark cloud on the horizon. It's a word that's whispered at family gatherings, a condition that has touched friends, neighbors, and perhaps even someone in your circle. Yet for all its notoriety, Alzheimer's often begins in subtle, almost invisible ways. The early signs don't always come with a big announcement. Instead, they creep in softly, as gentle as a sigh, until one day you realize something isn't quite right. Take the story of Jim and his wife, Diane, who have been married for over 40 years. Their children are grown, their home filled with family photos and the laughter of grandchildren during holidays. Jim was always the one who remembered birthdays, kept track of the bills, and planned their annual road trips. But a few years ago, Diane started to notice little things. Nothing alarming at first. Jim would forget where he'd set down his coffee mug or repeat the same question twice. She laughed it off, teasing him gently about senior moments. But soon, these slips became harder to explain away. One afternoon, Jim got lost driving home from the grocery store, a route he'd driven every week for decades. Another time, he stood in the kitchen, staring at a familiar appliance, unable to recall how to use the microwave. The worst was when he forgot the names of their grandkids, the very children whose photos lined their living room walls. Jim's experience is not unique. It reflects the journey of countless Americans in the earliest stages of Alzheimer's. But how can you tell the difference between normal aging and something more serious? Experts point to 10 early warning signs, signals that your brain might need extra attention and care. First, there's a noticeable decline in memory, especially the kind that disrupts daily life. It's not just forgetting where you put your keys, but repeatedly forgetting important dates or events, relying more on reminder notes or loved ones for things you used to handle alone. Next, you might notice difficulty in planning or solving problems. Maybe balancing the checkbook becomes confusing, or following a simple recipe seems overwhelming. If you've always been good with numbers but now struggle to track monthly bills, it's time to pay attention. Trouble completing familiar tasks is another sign. For Jim, it was suddenly forgetting the rules of his favorite card game, or how to get to the church where he and Diane had attended for years. You might also lose track of time and place. People with early Alzheimer's sometimes forget where they are or how they got there. They can lose track of seasons, dates, or the passage of time, making it hard to keep appointments or remember special occasions. Language can become a stumbling block, too. You may struggle to find the right words, pause more often, or call things by the wrong name. Conversations can be hard to follow, and sometimes you might stop in the middle of a sentence, unsure how to continue. Misplacing things, beyond the usual absent-mindedness, is common. What's concerning is when you put things in unusual places, like the TV remote in the freezer, and then can't retrace your steps to find them. Over time, this can lead to feelings of frustration or even paranoia, suspecting others of stealing. Poor judgment is another early sign. This might mean making uncharacteristically bad decisions about money, falling for scams, or neglecting personal hygiene in ways that are out of character. You may find yourself withdrawing from work or social activities you once enjoyed. Perhaps you've always loved a weekly book club, volunteering at church, or simply chatting with neighbors, but now you find yourself avoiding these gatherings, unable to keep up or feeling self-conscious about memory lapses. Changes in mood and personality can also emerge. People with early Alzheimer's often become confused, suspicious, depressed, fearful, or anxious. They might get upset easily, especially when they're out of their comfort zone or unsure what's happening. Finally, there's a difficulty in understanding visual images and spatial relationships. For some, this means trouble reading, judging distance, or even recognizing their reflection in the mirror. Not everyone will experience all these signs. But if you or someone you love is noticing several of these changes, it's important to seek medical advice early. Early diagnosis doesn't cure Alzheimer's, but it gives families more time to prepare, access support, and try strategies that can slow its progression. Still, a diagnosis of Alzheimer's doesn't mean surrendering to fate. Just as heart health can be protected by lifestyle changes, so too can brain health. Research has identified several powerful prevention measures, simple habits that can make a real difference, especially when adopted early. Eat more fish rich in omega-3. Let's start with what's on your plate. The saying, "You are what you eat," holds special meaning for the brain. Among the most powerful foods for memory and cognitive health are oily fish like salmon, sardines, trout, and mackerel. These fish are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, especially DHA, which plays a vital role in keeping brain cells healthy. Studies show that seniors who regularly eat fish have a slower rate of cognitive decline and a lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Omega-3s help reduce inflammation in the brain and support the repair of cell membranes, acting as a shield against the buildup of harmful proteins that cause dementia. Even 1 or 2 servings of fish per week can make a difference. If you're not a fan of fish, omega-3 supplements, taken with your doctor's guidance, can be a helpful alternative. Play Sudoku regularly. Physical exercise is important, but the brain needs its workout, too. Activities that challenge the mind, like Sudoku, crossword puzzles, or strategy games, help build what neuroscientists call cognitive reserve. This is your brain's ability to find new ways to solve problems, adapt to challenges, and compensate for early damage. Consider the story of Linda, a retired schoolteacher who, after noticing some forgetfulness, made a habit of doing Sudoku puzzles every morning. It became a routine as comforting as her first cup of coffee. She found that it sharpened her mind and gave her confidence, and her doctor encouraged her to keep it up. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Brain games are not just fun. They strengthen the connections between nerve cells and can delay the onset of cognitive symptoms. Even learning a new skill, such as a language or musical instrument, has been shown to benefit the aging brain. Maintain a healthy weight. Another key piece of prevention is maintaining a healthy weight. Obesity, especially in midlife, is linked to a higher risk of Alzheimer's. Excess weight can lead to diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol, all of which damage blood vessels in the brain. If you're carrying extra pounds, even modest weight loss can help. Focus on whole foods, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains. Small, sustainable changes, like walking after meals, choosing water over soda, and controlling portion sizes, can have big impacts. Your brain and your heart will thank you. Practice meditation. It might sound like a trend, but meditation and mindfulness are rooted in centuries of wisdom, and today, science is catching up. Chronic stress and high levels of the hormone cortisol can damage the hippocampus, the brain's memory center. Meditation helps calm the mind, reduce anxiety, and even physically increase the size of the hippocampus. Pat, a 72-year-old widow, credits meditation with giving her a sense of peace and clarity she hadn't felt in years. She started by simply focusing on her breath for 5 minutes each morning and gradually joined a group at her local community center. The result? She sleeps better, feels less overwhelmed, and believes her mind is sharper. Even if meditation is new to you, apps and community classes can make it easy to start. The benefits go beyond brain health, improving mood, sleep, and even immune function. Ensure adequate sleep and napping. Sleep is not a luxury. It's essential for memory. During deep sleep, the brain clears away toxins, repairs cells, and consolidates new information. Unfortunately, many older adults struggle with insomnia, fragmented sleep, or daytime drowsiness. Researchers have found that people who consistently get 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night have a lower risk of Alzheimer's. Short, regular naps, about 20 to 40 minutes, can also improve cognitive function, but long or irregular naps may have the opposite effect. The key is routine. Go to bed and wake up at the same time each day, avoid caffeine late in the day, and create a calm, dark sleeping environment. Socialize more. Human beings are wired for connection. Social isolation is not just lonely, it's harmful to the brain. Studies show that seniors with strong social networks have better memory, slower cognitive decline, and even a lower risk of developing Alzheimer's. Whether it's joining a book club, volunteering, attending church, or simply calling an old friend, regular social interaction stimulates the mind, lifts the spirit, and combats depression. For Bill, who lost his wife several years ago, it was his weekly card game that kept him going. The laughter, conversation, and friendly competition gave him purpose and routine. If you find yourself becoming more withdrawn, reach out. Your brain is as hungry for company as it is for nutrients. Regular physical exercise. Finally, The most powerful prevention tool of all: regular exercise. Physical activity increases blood flow to the brain, encourages the growth of new neurons, and reduces inflammation. Seniors who exercise 3 or more times a week have significantly lower rates of dementia, even if they start later in life. You don't have to run marathons. Brisk walking, swimming, gardening, or dancing all count. The key is consistency. Find activities you enjoy and stick with them. Exercise doesn't just protect memory. It boosts mood, strengthens the heart, and helps maintain independence. As you reflect on these prevention measures, remember that small changes add up. It's not about perfection, but about progress. Even adopting 1 or 2 new habits can help safeguard your memory and quality of life. Bringing it all together. The early signs of Alzheimer's are easy to overlook or dismiss, but paying attention and taking action can make all the difference. Jim and Diane's journey, like so many others, reminds us that memory is not just about holding on to the past. It's about cherishing the present and building a future filled with meaning. No one can predict exactly what lies ahead. But by nourishing the brain with healthy foods, challenging it with new activities, caring for the body through movement and sleep, and staying connected to others, you can stack the odds in your favor. The path may not always be easy, but it is worth walking, one thoughtful step at a time. In the end, perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all, that the best way to honor our memories is to care for ourselves and each other, embracing each new day with curiosity, hope, and love. Alzheimer's may be a formidable opponent, but with knowledge, compassion, and determination, we can rise to meet the challenge, together. As we reach the end of this journey together, I hope you feel a renewed sense of possibility. Alzheimer's disease can cast a long shadow, but it doesn't have to steal our hope or our purpose. Each of us carries within us a lifetime of stories, laughter, and love, treasures that deserve protection. Perhaps you see a bit of your own story in Jim or Diane, or in the struggles and triumphs of friends and neighbors who have faced memory loss head-on. Maybe today's conversation has stirred up old fears or sparked new questions. But let it also be a gentle reminder: we are not powerless. Every morning we choose a nourishing breakfast, every step we take outside in the sun, every moment we spend connecting with others. These are small acts of courage that can make a world of difference. Even if the road ahead sometimes feels uncertain, remember that you are part of a community, one that learns together, supports each other, and shares both heartache and hope. The science continues to evolve, and discoveries are just around the corner. In the meantime, caring for your mind is one of the most loving gifts you can give yourself and your family. If you found today's video helpful, I invite you to share what resonated most in the comments below. What new habit will you bring into your life? Your stories matter, and your voice might just inspire someone else. And if you haven't already, please consider liking this video, sharing it with a friend, and subscribing to our channel. Together, we can keep learning, growing, and embracing every chapter with dignity and grace. Until next time, take good care, and never stop cherishing your memories.